I think we're going to make a concerted effort to finish up the halachas today because we spent enough time on this, right? You're supposed to say, no, not at all. We could do this forever. Never mind. Okay. Here's a practical piece of halacha. You know, when you go to like a Shabbaton or some kind, there's a lot of people washing their hands. So once you've made your Anatilis Yadayim and you're waiting for the Hamoitzi to be made, you can answer Amen to other people's brachas. That's always something which, you know, people are a little bit uncertain about, whether they can, whether they can't, because as we learned the other day, when you've made the Anatilis Yadayim, you're not supposed to speak at all or make a gap between having said the bracha and making Hamoitzi. But over here, it's okay to say Amen to everybody. In fact, you should say Amen to everybody's brachas, right? And that's okay to do. Now, if you've made Anatilis Yadayim, and even if you've already made Hamoitzi, right, which means that you've now started eating the bread, and you're in the middle of your meal. However, there might be moments where you might need to re-wash your hands, depending on a few things. So, if just in general, you should have got nothing to do with eating a meal. It's just in general, if you touch a part of your body that is normally covered, so then you need to wash your hands afterwards. So, for example, I guess most people normally keep their chests covered, for example, right? If you have an itch and you stick your hand inside your shirt and you start scratching away over there, if you've touched a place, then you should go and wash your hands afterwards. I guess it goes without saying, although most things that go without saying do need to be said, that if you change a baby's diaper, you should wash your hands afterwards. If you scratch your head, if you scratch your head so hard that you touch your scalp, you go through to your scalp, then you need to wash your hands again. If you're just scratching your head in a very gentle fashion, and something like that would be fine. But going deeper, that's a problem. Scratching your beard is not a problem. Right, which is, it's only the top of your head. It's only the skull which makes you having to wash your hands again. Going to the bathroom again goes without saying, which is why we're saying it. And if you fall asleep, the Mishnah Berurah says that if you fall asleep during the meal, even if it's just a short nap, when you wake up, you should wash your hands again. Now, I don't, again, it's a little bit of a subjective thing. I do have relatives who tend to fall asleep. at the Shabbos table, they just fall asleep. When they wake up, I don't know how long they've been sleeping for. If it's certainly less than 20 minutes is probably not a big deal. But sometimes they do take a proper shluff inside of the meal. If that's the case, when they wake up, they should wash their hands again.
Say the bracha again, or just wash your hands.
Just wash your hands. Without bracha. We'll talk about some times when maybe you do have to make a bracha.
Wash them
wash them. You should wash them. No,
in the same way.
Well, look. The thing is like this. Not really. You just need to wash your hands, right? You don't have to do it in the way that you would wash in order to make a motzi, but you do need to cover your hands with water. Now, here's a halacha which I think is very something which I think is very practical and very common as well. You start your Suda, and you make Hamoitzi, and you're now in the middle of the Suda, and then there's a long gap during the Suda. So, for example, maybe there is a very lengthy Devar Torah that's being said, or maybe, you know what, you've eaten, most of the meal has been eaten, and no one's really very hungry, and you're just sitting around, and you're speaking Divrei Torah to each other, and you're singing Zmiras together, and sometimes in Sudat Shlishit, for example, you can just get into a Zmira singing mode where it's just everyone's just happy to keep singing. Nobody wants to break the atmosphere. So, what are you supposed to do? So the Mishnah Berurah says that if it's an hour or two, it's a problem. You've taken your mind off of the meal, and now what are you supposed to do? So you would have to go and wash your hands again. And according to the Mishnah Berurah, I don't know, you've got to wash your hands again, and you've got to eat. You've got to make a moti again. Other poskim are a little bit more lenient over here. They say like this: if you're sitting at the table, then that's a sign that you're aware that you're still in the middle of a meal, and it should be okay. Now, what's the difference over here? So Shabbaton maybe is less of a problem. You go to a wedding, right, and you get up from your table and you start dancing, and you're dancing and dancing and dancing. You've been dancing for a long time. It could be there's a little bit of a problem over here. How do you get around the problem? The simplest way of getting around the problem is to make sure that you eat something in between. It doesn't have to be anything substantial. It doesn't even have to be bread, actually. It could just be, whatever's on the table, a piece of fruit. It could be, like a potato, a piece of schnitzel, whatever it is. It really makes no difference. The minute you've eaten something else, you've now extended your ability to be able to keep dancing without having to worry about it. Same thing at the Shabbos table. Let's say you go to, maybe you go to, I don't know, not a Shabbos table. You go to a, the worst thing of all. You go to a charitable event.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! And people get up and they talk and they talk and they talk and they talk, right? And so how do you get around the problem of spending too long listening or not listening to this fellow speak? By just eating a little bit of something, nibble on something in between, and then you've just extended your time period. Now, I've noticed very often on Shabbos, especially sometimes when you get to the end of dessert, and people are just sitting around. You haven't benched yet, and people are just sitting around, and they're busy. They're talking and they're singing, and time starts moving along. And you'll see in many different homes what they do is that they'll bring out little things to nibble on, right? So over here, like nuts or jellies or whatever it is, they'll put them out on the table. Bendix mints, for example. Only if you're in a home of somebody who's truly a connoisseur. Otherwise, they'll just get out after 8 or something. Anyway, at a Shabbos meal, we've got an additional issue over here. It could be that time is going to it's just going to be too extended. It's going to be too long, and then if that happens, if a 72-minute gap has appeared between the time that you finish eating your bread till the time that you want to bench, it's a problem. You can't bench anymore. So the best thing to do by far is, again, all it takes is one nut or one Bendix, right? I meant the the type that grow on a tree. Yeah, good. Not the type that climb them, but all it takes, it just takes one little thing to extend your time period for another 72 minutes. So it's really not a big deal, right? A jelly or a mint or a nut, and even if you're full up, but you're scared that you might cross over that 72-minute cutoff. So the best thing to do is just to have a little something. We spoke about the idea that you need to wash Natilas Yadayim. You need to wash it using what's called a keli, using a vessel. Let's have a see what is acceptable, what's not acceptable. The reason why, by the way, we wash our hands using a keli is because we're mirroring what took place in the temple. Whenever the Kohanim would wash, they would also use a keli to wash their hands with, and therefore that's what we do as well. It makes no difference what it's made out of. Right, so you can have it made out of glass or wood or clay. You can have it made out of silver. Many people have silver Natilas Yadayim cups for Shabbat. During the rest of the week, they'll use something a little less expensive than that. Anything is okay to use. However, some poskim, some authorities are of the opinion that you should not use plastic disposable cups for Natilas Yadayim. That's a lack of respect. However, again, if that's all there is, then for sure it's okay to use it. It's better to use that than not to be able to wash your hands. Yeah. Part of the problem over here is maybe it's not these things are rather what's the word? Rather thin and not. So maybe if you take two and put them together, so maybe that's a better way of washing your hands. There are poskim that is if you put disposable cups on your table for Shabbos, right? If you would use them for Shabbos, then it's okay to wash your hands with them. Yeah, we're talking about
plastic cups. Okay, it's plastic cups.
Those plastic throwaway.
Okay,
right.
You do. You mean at the beginning ayadayim for the bread, or you mean when?
For al natilat yadayim for the bread.
Okay.
Yeah, so again, it sounds like whatever you're going to do, it's going to be okay, which means the people that want to be careful, they're not going to use disposable cups, that's good, fine. And if you do want to, it's going to be okay. You can, if you don't have anything at all, and you're out on a tiul, right, and you don't have anything to wash your hands with, so it's okay to wash your hands in something which is okay to use as a mikveh. So if you've got a running stream, or you go to the ocean or something, you could just dip your hands into the ocean or into the stream, and you don't have to have a cup. You don't have one. What can you do? But you want to eat your sandwich, so that's okay to do as well. Again, we spoke about the idea that when you come to wash your hands, you should wash your hands using lots of water, right? Be generous with the amount of water that you're using. Again, it's got a little reward attached to it. Yeah.
Good question. What if a person used the cup but didn't use all the water and left it there on the sink? Can one use that same water, or should one dump the water and then just make a new batch? That's just for just wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
I mean, just not the bread.
Oh, when you wake up in the morning, normally when you wake up in the morning, we're more stringent, right? So I think when you wake up in the morning, you should definitely use new water.
New water, okay.
When it comes to making hamoiti, I think it's okay to use the water that's in there already.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay.
It's interesting. There is a custom among some people. I don't know if you see it here in the yeshiva, maybe, that people fill up once you've washed your hands, you fill up the cup for the person behind you.
Correct, yeah.
We just leave the sink on.
The tap,
Yeah,
leave the tap on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so long as there's somebody right behind you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
That's also good. There's that, again, some people say, no, I want to fulfill the mitzvah of filling up the cup, but it's not really a mitzvah. That the mitzvah is washing your hands. When you fill up the cup ready for the next person behind you, so that's fulfilling the mitzvah of ben adam lachavero, right? You're doing a kind deed for the next person. He doesn't have to fill up the cup; it's there waiting for him already to do. And it's very much, I think it's a very beautiful idea actually, that if somebody's done that to you and you appreciated it, so it's a good idea to do it for the next person behind you. Why not? Right? It's a nice thing to do. I read a very beautiful little story actually about somebody who broke down, and they were stuck on the side of the highway, and they didn't know what to do, and it was dark outside, and they didn't know how to change. They had a puncture. They didn't know how to change the puncture, and a car pulled up behind them, and a fellow gets out and asks, if everything is okay. So the person said, no, it's not. And so the fellow said, here, look, I'll help you. And he gets out the spare tire, and he gets out the jack, and he changes the tire and gets himself all dirty in the process. And once everything is taken care of, this fellow, the person whose car had broken down, wanted to give him something, right? So he tried to give him a $50 bill, thinking that's like, he really did appreciate it. It was like the middle of the night. It was dark. He didn't know what he was doing. And along came this angel of mercy and changed his tire for him. And he wouldn't take it. So the person whose car broke down said to his savior, he says, what can I give you? So he said, the best thing that you can give me is the next time you see somebody who's in need of help, stop and help them. Right? And tell them to carry it on. It's like a chain, right? I think it's a very beautiful story, and it's something that I think we all need to be aware of these kinds of things. We can really help people very easily by just doing small things in a day, like you fill up somebody's cup full of water, and it's a tiny little thing. It doesn't really take any effort or energy on your behalf, and yet you're making things a little bit easier for the person behind you. That person is going to have a slightly better day because you filled up his cup for him. So I think it's a very nice thing to do. Mishnah Berurah says like this. It's an interesting halacha. If you've got no water available at all to wash your hands, but there are other beverages around, Mishnah Berurah mentions wine. He says that it's permissible to wash your hands with wine without making a bracha. Right, now, what's the pshat? The pshat is very simple. The whole idea of washing your hands was to do what?
Spiritually clean them.
Right, get rid of the spiritual impurity. If I don't have any water, but I do have something else to be able to wash my hands with. So I guess today maybe people don't walk around with bottles of wine, maybe, but if you've got a bottle of Coke or something, however weird it sounds, right? You should wash your hands with a bottle of Coke without making a bracha, in order to rinse off any of the spiritual impurity, and then you can eat your sandwich, right, without having to cover your hands with something. However, says the Mishnah Berurah, if at some point whilst you're still eating, somebody brings water to where you are, then you need to wash your hands, and you've got to wash them again with the water.
Okay, so when it's beverages, you don't say bracha. You just do the
Yeah.
the 1 2 1 2 1 2.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And then you
And
could
with
just
water. You do the bracha. Okay.
Yeah.
Bracha is with water only. I remember.
Okay, so I don't know. You can wash your hands with orange juice, or you can wash your hands with anything really.
Kind of messy.
Messy, sticky,
Exactly.
and a rather odd.
Wasteful.
You can down like a half a bottle of Coke, and
Please.
you're not gonna have fun drinking.
It's probably
your-
better for you to wash your hands with Coke
Well,
than it is to
touch it.
drink the stuff, isn't it?
Tashchis. Well, touch.
It's true. It's counterintuitive. It's interesting, right? Never mind Coca-Cola and orange juice. The Mishnah Berurah talks about wine,
Yeah.
right? Wine is something which is, as a rule, wine is. I was going to say as a rule, wine is more expensive than Coca-Cola is, right? So I understand, is it bal tashchis? A bottle of Coke costs pretty much what a bottle of water costs, right? So if you were to go into the local, the local garage and buy yourself a bottle of water to wash your hands with, no one would say, hey, that's bal tashchis. Bal tashchis is, throwing out something which is good. It's normally applicable to food, but the truth is it's applicable to everything, which means you've got a perfectly good sweater and you just throw it out. It's also a form of bal tashchis. You've got food, perfectly good food that you throw out. That's also bal tashchis. That's how Jewish parents try to get their kids to eat things that they don't want to eat by telling them it's bal tashchis. If you don't eat that. And my mother always used to try telling me that there's starving children in Africa, which is truly, truly bizarre. Even as an 8-year-old kid, I really couldn't see the connection between boiled white fish and starving children in Africa. I just couldn't. It was every now and then my mother would make boiled white fish, and I didn't want to eat it, and she would tell me, but there are starving children in Africa. And I always I was going to ask, I don't understand. So if I eat this, then they won't be starving? Am I missing something over here? But what I did was, in a childish fit, I said, okay, let's put the fish in an envelope, right, and send it off to Africa, and that way they can have the fish because they're starving, and I'll just make do with something else instead. But that didn't go down well either. It's interesting. I did ask my mother a few years ago. I asked her, what on earth, what was the logic behind asking me to finish eating something if there are starving children in another continent? And she thought, and she said, did I really say that?
I have a question, Rabbi. You said snow, right? What about ice? Ice cubes.
Ice cubes. Well, you've got to let the ice cubes thaw.
All right, okay.
So what's the difference between snow and ice? Snow is really just, ice is really glorified snow, or snow is glorified ice. I don't know which, it depends which way you look at it. But when you put your hands into the snow, it's completely covered. The hands are completely covered by the snow, so it's fulfilling the same job as if you were to wash them with water. When you put your hands into ice cubes, so part of your hand for sure is touching the ice cube, but lots of parts of your hand are not. That's a little bit of a problem, right? Because your whole hand has to be covered with the water in order to be able to fulfill your obligation. So that's why snow. Mishnah Berurah says snow is okay. He doesn't mention ice, but it seems clear that ice would not be okay. I think. The last halacha over here, and yeah.
One last thing. What about
That's
club,
fine.
What about club soda? It's just water. It's just water. It's just bubbles. Water with bubbles.
Yeah, I think that's definitely less problematic than if you wash using soda. I think you can make a bracha. That's not like washing with Coca-Cola.
Correct. Yes. Okay.
Right. So Mishnah Berurah said if you wash with something that is not if you wash with something which is not water, then you should wash without making a bracha, right?
Yes.
But water, a soda, is really water that's just been carbonated.
Correct.
Right? So I think it's definitely okay to wash using soda water and to make a bracha. See, it's interesting. Right? You spoke about Bal Tashchis, the idea of taking wine, washing your hands in wine. You know, you've got a very nice dry red wine on your table that you've been looking forward to using, and now what you're going to wash your hands with it. It certainly sounds like Bal Tashchis. It's certainly counterintuitive. That's for sure. But the halacha is that that's what you're supposed to do. Right? So why is that? Because removing the spiritual impurity from your hand is more important. It overrides the prohibition of Bal Tashchis. So it doesn't mean that you can just throw your wine around. You know, well, listen, if I can wash my hands with it, then for sure I can, I don't know, squirt it on my friend or something. That would be a problem of Bal Tashchis. It really would, of wasting something for no reason. But over here, like I said, it's overridden by the need to make sure that you've got clean hands. One last halacha over here, and then in Hashem we can just open this up. If you've got any questions at all about anything, we'd be happy to try to answer them.
Right.
No guarantees. But last halacha over here, it is mi'ikar adin. According to the halacha, you can use hot water to wash your hands with. Right? So, say for example, I don't know. For example, you've ended up in a place where there's no running water at all. But before Shabbos, you set up a urn. So you've got hot water over there. Can you use that hot water now to wash your hands with? Well, mi'ikar adin, you are allowed to. However, I mean, first of all, practically speaking, I don't think it's a great idea to wash your hands with boiling hot water that's coming out of the urn. That's just my, personal preference. If that's the kind of thing that you enjoy, well, please continue to do so. However, lechatchila, which means the best way of performing the mitzvah is to pour out the boiling water, or pour out the hot water, whatever it is, let it wait, let it cool down, and then when it's cooled down enough, you can wash your hands properly, right? Otherwise what? If you're going to be worried about burning yourself, you're going to be worried about, hurting yourself. So just let the water cool down a little bit, push off your suda, push off eating until the water is cool enough to be able to wash your hands without you being concerned about doing something to your hands. Good. Okay, we've finished up the halakha. Yeah.
What about soup?
I'm all for it.
You said you can use a liquid other than water. Can you use like a
yes?
A liquid
you know
food,
what? Yes.
like porridge or soup?
Well, porridge I think is a problem because porridge is really not very liquidy.
It's more liquidy than snow.
Yeah, but snow is comprised only of water, whereas porridge, the only liquid inside of the porridge is whatever you've added to it, which is either water or milk. I think porridge is a problem, but if you're talking about something which is a liquid, so soup, I don't see why soup should be any different from using Coke.
So, in regards to the bread, so I seen like when it's challah, if you don't have water, you can still eat the bread, but you have to put your hands in a bag.
Yeah.
The bread, yeah.
Yeah.
What's the reason behind that exactly?
Again, what's the reason? Because the whole reason behind washing your hands is to get rid of any spiritual impurity that's on your hands,
The salt,
right?
Saddam,
No, the salt, that's at the end of the meal, not at the beginning.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Which means like this, that you've got to, you're not supposed to eat the bread, you're not supposed to touch the bread if you've got spiritual impurities upon your hand, right? So you wash your hands in order to get rid of them, in order to be able to eat it. If you can't do that, if you don't have any water to wash your hands with, so you can cover your hands with something, you can put on gloves, you can take a towel and cover your hands, and then you can hold the bread, so you're not touching it directly, you can eat the bread.
Make it a bracha with?
With the bracha, yeah. Make a bracha moitei lechem min haaretz. You can't make a bracha of ana tilei because that's the whole problem. That you don't have any water to wash with right now. Mitzvah Hashem, if you're halfway through your meal and somebody brings you water, then again you should stop and you should wash your hands.
And that's what's challah. What about other bread, like white bread?
All bread.
All
Any bread. It's not something which is peculiar to only challah. Right? Which is anything that we're talking about over here with regards to hand washing is applicable to all different kinds of breads.
Okay.
What we will learn in Mitzvah Hashem, that's what we're going to do next, that's what we'll start tomorrow, is that on Shabbos and Yom Tov there is a mitzvah to use two breads, right? To have 2 chalot on the plate, and that's really the only difference between eating a Shabbos meal and eating an everyday meal, right? So everyday meal, all the halachas surrounding the hand washing and the what you eat and how you eat it and when you bench, all of that it's all still applicable.
Do we make a bracha every time we wash our hands, or just in the morning after we wake up and before eating?
Yeah. So no, you don't make a bracha every time you wash your hands. Like you say, you make a bracha when you get up in the morning, and you make a bracha when you're going to eat bread. But every other time that you wash your hands, you're not going to make you're certainly not an al natilas yadayim you don't make. Right, so if you wash your hands because you come out of the bathroom, so you make an asher yotza. That's a bracha of coming out of the bathroom. If you just wash your hands because what are some of the things that we spoke about? For example, you touched a part of your body that now you need to wash your hands. So you just wash your hands without making a bracha.
What if one make a bracha after coming out of the shower? I mean, does one do an ayadayim after coming out of the shower?
No, you don't make a bracha of al natilas yadayim after coming out of the shower, but you should, after you come out of the shower, you should wash your hands. Because presumably, whilst you were in the shower, I hope you cleaned yourself, and soaped yourself down, and touching parts of your body that are normally covered require you to wash your hands afterwards.
The whole time?
What does the whole time mean?
Like, all the time when you touch a part of the body that's normally covered, not even just during a meal.
Yeah, no, maybe, perhaps. How's that? Did I cover all my bases?
So like, if I needed to scratch my chest, and I sort of went like that and scratched my chest.
Then you should go and wash your hands.
Really?
Right?
Really?
Nothing to do with.
What about your back? Scratch your back also?
Probably the same as a chest.
Yeah, any
But
part.
if you're through clothing.
That's okay. There's no problem.
Okay.
Your leg?
I don't want you scratching my leg.
What
Thank
if I
you.
scratch your foot?
No, what if you're wearing shorts? I mean, and then you scratch your leg.
Here, so it's interesting. If you're somebody who normally wears shorts, right, then scratching the bottom from your knee downwards is not a problem.
Okay.
If you're somebody who doesn't normally wear shorts, then it could be that it is a problem, right? It's got a lot to do with, it's got a lot to do with your standard of dressing, right? What do you normally wear and what do you not normally wear?
What if you scratch your foot through a sock?
No problem.
Okay.
That's cool.
Wait, I thought anything like the foot, socks, or shoes. Yeah.
Shoes.
Shoes.
If you touch your shoes, certainly if you touch the bottom of your shoes, so you should go and wash your hands. Some people are stringent and they say if you touch your shoes at all, you should go and wash your hands. But if you touch the top, there are authorities who are less stringent and they say that's okay. The big problem with shoes is the bottom, the sole of the shoes, right, and the heel. And you should go and wash your hands. But if you're scratching your foot through your sock, then that's okay. You haven't touched anything.
What about cutting your fingernails? That one also.
When you cut your fingernails, you should wash your hands after you've cut your fingernails. There's some interesting halachas about cutting your fingernails in general, actually. First of all, you shouldn't cut your fingernails and your toenails on the same day.
Oh,
Are you serious?
Whoops.
Yeah.
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 So go on. Explain yourself.
You don't look very happy.
No, I don't. I already did it
He
already.
actually looks very happy to me.
I did. I did yesterday.
Okay, fine. So you're going to fry for eternity. What can I tell
No,
you?
you have
That's
to fast for 5 years.
yes. Well, that's according to the lenient opinion. The more stringent opinion is for 50 years.
Okay, what's the reason behind that?
Okay, what's the reason behind it? The truth of the matter is that the reason is rather, first of all, it's Kabbalistic, which I don't really understand the whole idea behind nail cutting in general. But the Chevra Kadisha, when a person passes away, so the last thing that the Chevra Kadisha does is they normally give the dead body, they cut their nails, their fingernails and their toenails, because believe it or not, fingernails and toenails continue growing for a few days after a person dies.
It's not how they grow, it's that the fingers and toes contract, what forces them. It makes them look bigger.
Yeah. Same with hair.
Whatever, I'm just telling you, the reality is that your fingernails look like they're growing, right? Let's not be so technical over here. That's why there is a custom not to cut, the Arizal says that one should not cut toenails and fingernails on the same day. Now, if you want to get around the problem, you can have after a shower, for example, you take a shower just before it gets dark, you can cut your fingernails while sit still today and cut your toenails tomorrow because it's become dark already in the meantime, and now you're okay. He's really taking this seriously. He's like, wow.
No.
That's it. Your life has come to an end. It's like
you have like so you mean like around like 5 o'clock when it turns dark. That's
let's say when does it turn dark? I think it turns dark. Let's say 5:15 it gets dark, right? So you could take a shower at 4:45.
Okay.
You could cut your fingernails at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Wait, 15 minutes, and then at 5:15 you could cut your toenails because that's already the next day.
Gotcha.
Right, but you need to be careful not to cut fingernails and toenails on the same day. There is also a Kabbalistic concept of not cutting fingernails in the order of your hand, right? Which means that you should make a gap between fingernails, right? So start off with nail number 1 and go to nail number 3, and then nail number 5, and then go back to nail number 2, and then go to nail number 4, and that way you're not cutting your nails one next to the other. Again, do I understand this? Absolutely not.
What's the reason?
It's Kabbalistic, and I cannot reveal it to you. You pune.
Okay.
Maybe when you are 40 years old and have been studying Torah 25 hours a day, 8 days a week, then maybe then I will allow myself to reveal to you some of the hidden dimensions of fingernails. In the meantime, though, I'm not going to because I don't really understand it myself.
Okay.
Good. Isn't that fun? Okay. Has anybody got any questions about anything? Because we're...
Okay, repeat that one more time with the nails.
the nails. Don't cut...
Okay, no, not the order. I'm talking about this on the same day. I mean, I didn't understand it. I mean, because I heard the concept. You can't do it on a Thursday because Friday was too...
Oh, you know what? Thank you. You know what? I forgot about that as well, right? Yeah. You should not cut your nails on a Thursday, right? Why is that? Because the third day is the day that the nails start growing, right? And it will look a little bit unsightly. If you cut on Thursday, that's Thursday, Friday, and then on Shabbos they won't look very nice on Shabbos. So there is a custom not to cut nails on Thursday.
Yes.
Cut them on Erev Shabbos if you want. Cut them on Wednesday if you want. Just not to cut them on Thursday because that's a problem. Thank you. I forgot about that.
Also, you're supposed to cut one of your hands first. The left or the right.
Yes, I mean, you'll be hard pressed to cut them at the same time.
I think you should start with the left hand first.
He's got adult standards.
If you're left-handed, where's your little where's your booklet?
It's at home.
Where is it when you need
It's
it?
at home.
Oh, I don't believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, I do actually.
Does his left hand become the one of Rachamim and his right hand becomes the one of Din? Because he's a lefty.
Well, no, not really. What's the pshat? The pshat is like this: that your left and right. We're talking about God's left and right are the sides which define Rachamim and Din. If somebody is left-handed as opposed to right-handed, I don't think it doesn't change around the concepts of Rachamim and Din. It just means that their stronger hand is their left hand.
So we don't presume that Hashem has handedness that we're trying to match up with. That we're trying to say that our stronger hand should be like his stronger hand.
Well, maybe in a certain way. Here, the Gemara says like this, that you should always push away with your left hand and draw close with your right hand. Right? People. Yeah? Again, talking about people who are right-handed. Your left hand is your weaker hand, which means always use your weaker hand to push somebody away and draw closer somebody with your stronger hand. Mm-hmm. So obviously over there, that fits in very neatly with the idea of din and rachamim. Right? Don't treat people with din, don't treat people with judgment, too much judgment. Right? Temper your judgment with mercy, and hopefully God will temper his judgment for you with mercy as well.
So, can you explain yourself? With the same day? Both fingernails and... You didn't tell me, you didn't finish it off.
Oh, so here, the Chevra Kadisha, the burial society, when they get the body ready for burial, that's what they do. They cut the nails and they cut the nails from the hands and the feet at the same time.
Okay.
And that's why the custom has arisen not to do that. So we don't do something which looks like something that the burial society do.
Gotcha. That's what I wanted. Thank you.
Sorry, you're right. I left off. I just left it up to your imagination.
Yeah.
I put that one together in my head.
Don't sleep in a coffin either.
Interestingly enough, they say that Moses Montefiore, that's what he did. He didn't sleep in a coffin, but every night before he went to bed, he would lie down in his coffin. He had a coffin made, and he would lie down in his coffin just to, to leave things in perspective a little bit. That
make sure you had the appropriate dreams. It's gonna mess you up.
Oh, I think it depends what your reason is for going in there. But if you're going in there because you just want to remember that we're human beings and our time over here is limited and we should use our time properly, then it's probably a very beneficial thing to do. I wouldn't recommend it that you do it, right? But I would say it's probably a beneficial thing to do.
I feel like a little bit of perspective on life and time is helpful. That's a lot of perspective.
Oh, for sure, for good. Great. They once say Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld, who was one of the great rabbis, lived over here. Came from I think he came from Brisk actually, but he lived over here. Was the chief rabbi of Yerushalayim, going back about 100 years, and he said that he thought about his day of death from the age of 40 onwards. Every day, he would think about the day that he was going to die in order to leave things in perspective, right? Just that he should know that time is limited and to use time properly. And
do you have a date picked out?
Not that I know of, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu did, and he did come to the end of his life. Which if a person's going to become very, very, it's going to upset their emotional equilibrium by thinking about dying the whole time, and it's going to make them depressed, then don't think about it. But if it's going to help a person again, get things into the correct perspective, then for sure it's something to do. Why not?
Okay, back to scratching your back or chest that's normally covered and then having to wash afterwards. If I use a pen to scratch it, do I have to wash after touching the pen?
No.
All right.
Direct contact. That's the only thing that we're concerned about over here. If you have a back scratcher, one of those neat, you've seen it themselves, right?
I have a question in regards to, okay, say I'm davening, right? And you can't, when you scratch your ear or when you scratch your, take saliva out of your mouth, just to flip the page, or scratch your nose, you can't do that, you have to wash your hands, right? Now, what do you do in the moment when you're davening? Because usually when I read the book, I can't flip the page, so I do that.
I don't know. I don't think there's a problem with saliva if you want to turn the page over. Yes. I don't think that's a problem. You can carry on davening. I don't think that's an issue.
Could you extend that to the ability to wash your hands with saliva?
Pardon?
Could you extend that to the ability to wash your hands with saliva?
Yes, yes. Yeah, only for you though, and only if you use somebody else's.
Let's lick my hands.
No, it's only my hands. I have to use your saliva.
That's cool. Oh,
yeah, that's okay.
Afterwards, one should wash his hands. Afterwards, at the end.
I think you should wash your hands for hygienic reasons. Actually, not for. I don't think any halachic reasons to wash your hands.
And if you blow your nose during davening,
that's okay. It's a great idea.
Whilst wearing tefillin.
I don't think there's any problem whatsoever.
You can't wash your hands when you're wearing tefillin.
Just don't bring wind while you do
What,
it.
I mean, you're blowing your nose into a tissue, right? Not into your hands.
Or into your talus.
Into a tissue.
There was a fellow over here years ago, who was a he was rather a big chap, and he used to wear these colourful Hawaiian shirts, and there was one day in Shir that he was gearing up to sneeze. His sneezes were they were epic, they were. And he was gearing up to sneeze, and you could see he's trying to find something to sneeze into, and finally in desperation he kind of lifts up his shirt and sneezed into that, which is probably the worst thing he could have done because everything just went out of his sleeve that way in the direction of the person sitting over there, which was whatever. It was one of those memorable occasions. I can't remember what we were learning that day, but I do remember him sneezing. So obviously the important things stick.
If you sneeze, you're supposed to wash your hands.
No.
No, according to DFHE guidelines, whatever.
Yes, if you sneeze, you should wash your hands. I think
royal into that acronym.
It's like the Department for Health and something. Anyway, they say that you catch it, bin it, kill it. Catch it in a tissue, bin the tissue, then wash your hands.
Good. That's
Stop.
beautiful.
Stop.
Again,
This is when the bird flu was being spread around Europe.
good. So I think we're sort of like we're revolving around the same kind of an
What if
issue
you're wearing
here.
tefillin?
And
You can't wash your hands.
so you don't wash that hand. You can wash the other hand if you want. You don't have to wash your hands after you've sneezed.
No, I'm saying
According to the guidelines, I don't know. You're going to have to write to the government,
No.
to Her Majesty's government, and ask them what does one do when one is wearing tefillin. What is one supposed to do with regards to washing hands if they were to sneeze?
As a Kohen, I often have to unwrap the tefillin from my hand and wrap it around my wrist
Yeah.
like in Duchen. Is that something that any Israel can do if they need to have their hand
Yeah,
free?
for sure, absolutely. I don't know
Why
if
is
you.
that?
When he goes up to bless the people, right? So he's a Kohen, so you go up every morning. in Chutzah, it's only on Yom Tov, right? But here you go every single day. It's done. So you can't pour water over your hand with the tefillin on it. So you just take off the tefillin, the strap, and you just wind it over your wrist, right? And then your hand is free to be washed. I don't know if you ever paid attention, but when people get Hagba, which is to lift up the Sefer Torah, so they also have to do that because
Oh, they
you
do?
can't. Yeah, because otherwise you're not going to be able to grip the rods properly. You won't have a proper grip. Now, what you'll notice is for most people, what do? They unwrap their tefillin and they just wrap it like you do, wrap it up on their wrist, and then they go and they do Hagba. After they finish Hagba, they'll put it back on again.
I did halva after your very sheet or Noach without unwrapping it from my hands.
Oh yeah,
It's all on the left hand too. So
good. Okay, that's what I mean. That's what you'll see with most people. That's what they do. Take a look next time if you remember on Thursday and you're in shul, right? So just take a look and see what's going on, and hopefully that's what you'll see.
I've never done Hagba, and I plan on doing it whilst I'm here, but I'm going to wait till the middle of the year. I'm not going to try and do it at this time of year.
It's not so bad.
Rabbi Shiller, the Rosh Hashiva, has got a cute joke about this weedy yeshiva bocher, a Baal Tshuva, who he goes to a shul. They don't know him, and they give him Hagba. And he's really weak, and he's like staggering around with this thing, and everybody's scared so if he's going to drop it. And he's so embarrassed. He says to himself, you know what, this can't continue. He says, I've got to do something about it. So he goes off to the gym. And he's in the gym, a good few months he's in the gym, and he's working on himself and his muscles and triceps and quads and you name it. And then finally he goes back to the same place again, a new person goes back to the same shul, and they call him up, and he gets to the bimmer, and he jumps up all 4 steps into the bimmer in one go, and he grabs a hold of the Sefer Torah, opens it up like 8 columns, and twirls around on 1 foot, and then sits down, and then he says to the Gabba, well, how was that? And the Gabba says, well, for Rabbi, it wasn't bad at all. He'd been given an aliyah to recite the brachas over the Torah. Anyway, we're going to stop over here. Jokes that have to be explained. Probably better off not being said.